So our third book in the series is 7/7 Muslim Perspectives, edited by Murtada Shibli. He's given us a collection of essays, observations by a range of Muslims responding to the 7/7 bombings. 7/7 offered a chance to mainstream Islam, the vast majority of British Muslims, to pluck up courage and challenge Muslim extremists, not only by confronting their theology, but also by creating a unique British Muslim or European Muslim discourse that constructs Muslim life in the reality of the European continent.
So, I mean, the point that he's making is that there has to be a kind of English Muslim English response to the situation, so that the English Defence League argument doesn't work and the extremist argument doesn't work, because they're similar responses from opposing ends of the field, but they're on the same ground. It's the same ground. It's a similar response on the same ground, and they won't fit together.
Right, we've kind of jumped into the middle of it. Let's step back a bit. What happened on 7/7? What actually happened? Let's get that clear, and then we'll come back to our lack of response as mainstream Muslims. But what actually happened? What was it? And I don't mean in terms of conspiracy theory, oh, it was this one and that. No, I mean, what conditions created that series of...
What by that you mean young men
being radicalized.
just radical, but actually destroying, taking active action to destroy their own society.
You said radicalization. They've been radicalized. Right.
We're not using the words right. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Radical means to go to the root. Huh?
Yeah.
Fundamentalist means to deal with fundamental realities. So we're taking the words the way they've been twisted by the current.
The words have been stolen.
Yeah. So we can't use them in this way.
It's the nihilist response to helplessness and frustration and a sense of injustice.
Yeah.
So you think, well, it's I'm going to kick the sandcastle down because I can't build it the way I want, and you're not going to have it. So you kick over the chess game because you're losing.
In the late 80s and throughout the 90s, when after the fall of the Soviet Union, and you could see, especially the American think tanks, looking for the next opponent. Because they needed something to be in.
Yes, absolutely.
And I remember them choosing different Muslim groups and looking at them and positing that it would be Cuba, and then with the rise of the internet, that Cuba would launch an internet strike on the United States, but none of it worked. But the Muslim one worked.
It's the ressentiment where you need the evil other that you then respond to. So it was all complete classic example of it, of where, they're bad and I oppose them, therefore I'm good. And, they're going to attack me sooner or later, so I'd better stop them now.
Coming back then to 7/7 and our experience of it here in Britain, we acknowledge that terms like fundamentalism and radicalization have been stolen, but they're still being used to refer to something. What is fundamentalism, or what is radicalization, which is really a very current term in the whole discourse that's being drummed up by the state. It's referring to something. Even if we accept that the term has been taken out of its true meaning, what is it referring to?
You know it by its opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite is moderation. You see? Moderation, if you look at it carefully, it just means utterly compromised. That's what it means. So if you're not compromised, you're an extremist. That's what's most people's experience of it.
Fine. Now, if the opposite of being radical is being compromised, what is it that's been compromised? What are we talking about? What's been compromised?
Well, from a Muslim perspective, it's their approach to the deen. Either you're this person who feverishly, sticks to the minute letter of it, or you completely let it all go and have a whiskey and just relax. Because in a way, it's like it's like the great war is to win the peace.
Mm.
It's actually makes society work.
Mm.
It's much harder than waging a war. When you wage a war, you just get out there and,
Kill people.
I want to kill, but to actually make society function is a much more, is a much deeper challenge.
Okay, we're getting to the bottom of being radical and being compromised and middle ground. Now, I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but it's only fair that we look these things head on. Now, there are those who would say that the very middle ground that is being perhaps encouraged to come forward is compromise. It's a very definition of compromise.
Yeah. What young people need is to be radical. They need that. And so if you're offering them moderation, you're guaranteeing that they're going to be extreme. It's a guarantee. So what was the Shaw quote? If a man's not a socialist when he's a young man, he has no heart. If he's not a conservative when he's an old man, he's got no intellect. The young people need to be offered something radical, right? But in the sense of really getting to the roots of things. And nobody wants to be offered, when you're 20, don't be told you better start working for your pension, mate. Which is basically what the society is saying. Start now. You can start living when you're 60. Oh, sorry, 65. Oh, sorry. Oh, forget it. Just forget it.
You see, what we're doing is we're having this slightly Socratic discussion about some matters, when actually my experience is radically different. It's that I meet very angry, alienated young men. And I mean, they're Muslim, and I meet non-Muslims like this. And these angry, alienated young men will end up going to extreme doctrine in which they can express their anger. Because somehow we haven't found a way to deal with these young men finding...
So we who? We Muslims or we society?
We as a society, and the Muslims are a subset of that, we haven't found a way to deal with these young men, to show them a future within it that is a constructive future that makes them feel that they can change things. They're alienated because they feel powerless. They don't want the life that's offered, and they feel powerless to change anything.
By creating a unique British Muslim or European Muslim discourse, so he posits it as something that has yet to be created. And so I go back to the question I asked in the last program, which direction do we look in to see the possibility of this discourse emerging? Because it has to emerge. It can't be another abstract idea that people sit down and come up with. Otherwise, we may as well have come up with Al-Qaeda ourselves.
I sense among the Western Muslims that there's a yearning for this radical middle way, in that sense, that of really wanting the real thing.
So to finish then on this thing, because I'm going to ask the question again because I didn't get a clear answer. Where do we look to find this unexpressed discourse, as he puts it, constructed within the European context?
We started with the text of Sheikh Usman Danfodio, and what we highlighted was that Sheikh Usman wrestled with the issues of his age, looking into his deen to find solutions for them.
Yeah.
And we are presented with exactly the same situation. So if we were to look anywhere, we have to look within ourselves and within communities, because the deen is lived within communities to find solutions for the problems that we face. And that has to be the discourse of a European Islam. Because if it doesn't, then we won't have an Islam.
Book Talk is sponsored by BahaPress.com. To receive an exclusive 10% discount on any purchase, enter the code RTV-discount01 when placing your order.